Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News for Saturday Night Livestream. We've got a returning guest tonight, Robert-LEROY Horton. This time, he is joining Russell J. Gould. And you guys, it actually says that my stream is offline, so I'm not certain whether or not it's actually broadcasting right now. So I'm going to check that out, refresh my screen, and yes, it is. So I want everybody to please be kind to each other, sit back, relax, get ready for another fun-filled evening of information. We're going to have a quick word from my sponsor, and we'll be right back after that. Don't miss it. We'll see you all in a moment. When emergencies strike, you always see news stories of long lines of people and empty store shelves. There's no need to be part of that chaos and the possibility of having to deal with FEMA food lines. Those that know what's coming are using today to prepare. You should make a plan too. I have, starting with building an emergency food supply, and I trust and use My Patriot Supply. They are experts in emergency preparedness and have guaranteed 2-day delivery. Disasters won't wait. Why should you? Act now and save $70 on a 2-week emergency food kit when you go to my special website, preparewithredpill78.com. My Patriot Supply food kits last up to 25 years in storage and include breakfasts. Order a few today and receive guaranteed 2-day delivery discreetly to your door. Take action so you're ready for what's coming and save $70. It's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Go to preparewithredpill78.com. Once again, that's preparewithredpill78.com. Well, it looked like I had a bit of a audio malfunction there on my commercial. It's supposed to be breakfast, lunches, and dinners. We're going to start off the night, you guys, just saying hello to all the Patriots that are here in the audience tonight. All my mods. I saw Wheezy, I saw Crystal Lynn, I'm sure my mother is here, saw Methods. Let's see, we got people from Whittier, California, Toronto, let's see, New York, I saw the Bronx earlier, Sarasota, Florida, Southwest Idaho, Anchorage, Alaska, Herkimer Fuddwaddle, what's up, buddy? Let's see, no dogs but cats and lizards. Judy, my dogs are here. No cats and lizards. Actually, I'm sorry, we do have cats. Alexandria Occasional Cortex, good to see you here. Let's see, West Virginia, Hawaii, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ann Arbor. Lots of people from Michigan here. I like the idea that there's people from my home state that are here in the audience tonight. You guys, you know I love you. I'm going to do just a quick slow down on the chat. We're just going to go to, let's see, 30 seconds. How's that, guys? That way everybody gets a chance and I might be able to see it. Well, did you guys happen to check the show last night? Did everyone get a chance to see it? It was interesting. It was a lot of good information, though. So I just wanted to say thank you to my guest, Miriam Hanane, for stopping by and checking it out. Karma Anon, there's another one of my mods. Jojo K, another one of my mods. Of course, there is Methods. Always good to see all of you here. So, if you don't know who Robert-LEROY Horton and Russell J. Gould are, they are involved with something called quantum grammar. Now, that's just a small part of it, but it's very important because it's kind of the underpinning of our society and this great fiction that has been hoisted upon us. Dana Finkler says, "Howdy, brother. How's Muffin? Where we bark one, we bark all." Muffin is sleeping behind my green screen on my secondary chair, so she's doing really well. You know, and then I did want to actually show you guys some stuff from the news before Robert and Russell get here. I did a little bit of research also. I did a little bit of research, and I wanted to know exactly what would get me demonetized in my videos. And it turns out it's basically all the content I produce. There's not much. There's not much I could do. Inappropriate language will definitely get me demonetized. That's something that I already steer clear of. It's a family-friendly show. Violence, I also steer clear of that. Adult content, certainly steer clear of that. I mean, this content is made for adults, but you know what I'm saying. Harmful or dangerous acts, I steer well clear of that as well. Hateful content, this content is not hateful, I would say. Incendiary and demeaning. And I would say that I steer clear of that too. There's also no recreational drug use or drug-related content. Let's see, Herkimer Fuddwaddle, quite frankly, Halloween show at 11 p.m. Eastern. Oh, awesome, guys. As soon as we're done here, you can head straight over to Quite Frankly. Frank is a good man. He does excellent work. Love his programs. Tobacco and firearms related content. There's none of that here either. Controversial issues and sensitive events. That's what gets me, because it's essentially anything political or anything in the news that is worth reporting. So unfortunately, it basically sets me up for failure from the very start. Now, the great irony of everything is that if you are a mainstream media channel, like say you're Fox News or MSNBC, and you report on something that's newsworthy, then guaranteed you're going to shoot right to the top of the heap. But if you are someone like me and you report on the news as it's happening and maybe give a little bit of commentary, then you're going to get buried. So the whole point of this is, guys, I want to say thank you to everybody who supports me, and there is a wide array of different ways you can support me. Most people choose to like and share my videos, and that is so vitally important. If you could also go to the description of this video, I have 2 backup channels. So if something were to happen to me, something catastrophic, and I could no longer publish my content here, I will go to those 2 backup channels. And if you guys can subscribe to those, if you're not already, if you can also help me by maybe telling your friends and your loved ones to also subscribe to me there, then it would significantly increase the chances that you and everyone you love will see what I'm doing if something happens here. Now, I'm just going to keep praying that nothing will happen, and I'd like to everybody else to do the same. If you could, please pray for me in that regard. If not other regards as well, I would so appreciate it. I do see that Q Patriot for Life said, don't want to lose your programs, so here's a little something to help. Thank you very much. That's greatly appreciated. I certainly do appreciate that. And then also Dana at the beginning of the broadcast had said, howdy, brother, how's Muffin, where we bark when we bark all. Thank you so much, Dana. Herkimer, I'm glad you're here, buddy. This is kind of like the Quite Frankly warm-up show on Saturday nights. I know that I have lots of friends that are also viewers of Frank. It looks like my guests are still on the road, so not a big deal. But I've got a couple of news stories I wanted to show you guys. And I'm just going to say one thing. It's happening. It's happening. This very first story right here is probably going to get this video deranked, but that's okay. It is what it is, and I have to put this information out. All right, so yesterday it came out that there were some major things that have taken place. Jeff Stewart, call out to Methods. Thank you for that, Jeff. Oh, God's Guy and Gina's Girl. You guys, it's so good to see you. I hope this means that you got your internet sorted out. Love you, bro. Love your family. God is in control. Have faith. Be strong. Working on the TCO retreat. We will be ready in the spring for guests. Prayers for you all. You guys, Gina and Guy are building a Patriots retreat out in Oregon. So definitely we're going to be talking to them about that when they get back. Let's see. Benchwoggle says, you should point Sam Tripoli in the direction of the serpent seed you guys talked about then, but never said. Yes, you're totally right. And I didn't think about it at the time. I was a little bit nervous on a tinfoil hat. That was like the first time that I was on just like a podcast. There was no video. It's difficult when you're talking to people and you can't see what they're saying. Chef Jay's Reef says, giggity. Thank you so much. Highest Ground says, your professionalism and honesty is a breath of fresh air. I do appreciate that. Oh, Terry Fell, love you too. Love you right back. Debbie Roush says, Jim Watkins said he would come on your show if you could both meet up. I emailed Jim Watkins today. Someone TikTok Big shout out to my good friend TikTok. Sent me an email or just a message on Twitter and let me know what Jim's email account was. And so I messaged Jim, and hopefully we'll be getting together soon. Also, I have spoken with Black Conservative Patriot. He is going to be coming on the show very soon. Also, the guys from Edge of Wonder reached out. I'm definitely going to be talking to them. Those guys are like true broadcast professionals, and I know that there's some stuff that I could learn from them. So I do appreciate them being willing to talk to me and come on the show. So let me just switch over to this article right here. Because the title of the article is Get Your Popcorn Ready. 4 different reports released last night indicate the days ahead will be devastating for the deep state. And while I'm doing that, why don't I go ahead and add myself? We're going to go camera. Where is it? Video capture device. There we go. And we're just going to throw it in there. And there we are. Okay. All right. And Cosmic Examiner says, you do a great job. Thank you. Cosmic Examiner, thank you very much for that super chat. I do appreciate it. And, oh, look, you're seeing behind the scenes. I feel like the Wizard of Oz right now. It's like, David S. says, you have more than you know. Where you go one, we go all. Thank you so much for that, David. I appreciate that. Let me just, let's see, do a little, no, that's not it. How do I fix this? Video capture device. Huh, I don't remember how to, let me see, apply filters. I think that's it. Filters, there we are. And it's going to be this one, chroma key. Okay, so it took out the green, but so get your popcorn ready, guys. Last night was historic, and this is talking about Thursday night. The news came out on 4 different fronts indicating that our friends in the coup to remove President Trump should be very worried. Now, those of us uncovering the many corrupt actions taken by President Obama and the deep state have been looking forward to this day for some time. Ben Schwagel says, also, I'd like to get on your Discord or some other comms platform and tell the guys at Edge of Wonder that I've been watching you lately. Ben Schwagel, it's not a public Discord. I'm trying to, it's basically, I just made it for like calls into the show. I'm working on getting a public Discord set up so that I can invite everybody. But right now, I'm not as savvy with the security on it. And I know that there has been problems with people who can get your Discord server and then do things to get it shut down. And not that I don't trust you. I totally trust you. But I want to make sure that I have everything taken care of before I make it public. Let's see here. So these are the 4 things, guys. There was the Pfizer report. It's actually coming out. Now, there's some revelations as to why it hasn't come out yet. WitchyPoo22, thanks for that super chat. You have not missed Russell J. Gould yet. Yes, Wheezy Girl, it's because I was going back and forth. Hello, Russell, how are you, sir? Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. And there is Robert. It's Rohair. Robert, your name is set up as Rohair. All right. Well, listen, I'm glad you guys got here. Let me just switch back to the correct camera setup, and there we are. I would like to ask my audience to please welcome Russell J. Gould and Robert-LEROY Horton. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Good. Pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you're here.
Finally.
Yes, very happy that you're able to make it.
Corruption detector. All
yes.
right.
Robert, are you going to be turning your camera on, buddy? Still, he had some problems with his mic and his camera setup earlier. Terry Fell, someone from my audience, says, Tom's brother is in the transition to eternity. Patriots, please flood the throne of the Father with love and comfort for our brother in Christ. Terry, I'm really sorry to hear that. Definitely, everybody keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Since this is your first time on the show here, Russell, Just want to let you know that as we get questions and comments from the audience, occasionally I will read them out loud on the air. And the audience really likes it because that way we can keep up some level of interaction. And if you say something that, kind of strikes a chord in someone and they can think of a question that I hadn't yet, then we'll bring it out that way.
Sure.
Well, since Robert is having some issues, please, can you give us an introduction to who you are from your perspective? Because, Robert, we did get into the subject last time, but, it's great that you're here now.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now, Robert, but we can't see you. But Russell was just about to give us an introduction.
Well, hello.
Yeah, go for it. I've got no camera on my end.
Well, I'm Russell-J. Gould. I'm 46 years old. I've been doing the grammar, learning about postal and banking, and I set up a worldwide safety net in what's called quantum-banking. I'm the first architect and author of the quantum banking system. There's a lot of people out here saying that, but the authentication through the performances is what makes me different than everyone else. So what that means is I've been through the trials of trials and errors, wrongs on my part. I met the enemy and he was me. I blew myself up many times in my course of covering the closure on grammar and the closure on the courts and banking systems on a worldwide concept. And I've been very humbled and blessed to learn what I've learned. It has not been easy. It's been very difficult, very humiliating, very humbling. A path that has been full of learning and a lot of humility. And so that's who I am as in my plight. What I've done is I was able to figure out when the United States was coming out of a international bankruptcy in 1999, and I pre-positioned myself with my partner at the time, David-Wynne-Cullen-Miller, and filed copyrights on the Title IV 1 to 1.9 dimension flag, Title IV sections 1, 2, and 3. And so we wrote those constructs, and at the time we called it correct quantum math communication dialogues methods, but now it's known as correct communication Parse syntax grammar. So as technology has changed, we have learned things, and through our findings, David passed away a few years ago, and we had a corporate structure of the kind of to-do list of a living will of when he died, and people can watch that cross-reference on YouTube on Reno-Seminar Tilde 1 and 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
And so it shows a correlation of the continuance of the evidence. And I've set up a worldwide safety net in banking for the people of the planet, as well as the constructs of health and the things that we put into ourselves, and the concepts of restructuring a worldwide phenomenon to create fairness in contract. And it's been very hard. I was beat down by the U.S. judicial system tremendously. I was basically the poster child of being dragged out of the car, and everything that I learned in the middle of the courtroom. So this is not where I went out and was doing a bunch of seminars and this and that. I was in the middle of trials and errors. I conducted a military court-martial for 4 years at the Washington Obelisk every 45 days against the Bush gang. Very corrupt, very, very, very phony and fake in its finest form. Just fake people, no authorizations whatsoever. I will give Mr. Trump some credit when he opened up his campaign. He said in 17 years prior, we've been tricked. Well, the American people, we were tricked.
Yeah.
Very sad. It's a very sad thing. And it's sad that the people laughed so hard at what I was doing because they didn't comprehend the seriousness of what was being articulated. And so some of the verifications your audience can go to fortheredthumbclub.com, and they can look at some of the documents there where David-Wynne-Cullen-Miller and I, if you go to the kicking out document, you can see the cross-referencing into filing the flag at the United Nations on August 12, 1999, as well as cross-referencing at that time, I believe it was February 2014. I don't know the exact date, I apologize, of when we kicked, we had a lady that was not qualified to be in a position as a federal postal judge, and we kicked her out of the quantum system. Of course, when Dave died, she acted like nothing happened, and a lot of phoniness going on. And sadly, you cover fake news, you cover fake actors. You can look at the people, the righteousness of people. You can look in their eyes. You can look at the seriousness, the conviction that they have. Cross-reference the stories. I value the chance for the citizens of this country to go cross-reference with the guards in the locations that beat me up. Ask them.
Yeah, that's what we're pushing for right there. We're pushing for guys to, excuse me, the U.S. Marshals and stuff like that to come forward with those tapes and bring those tapes into the public sector so that everybody can see those for themselves, because all this did happen.
Now, could you give me that website name again? I can get it pulled up and we can have it on screen.
Oh yeah, so let me pull it up so I make sure that I do this right for myself.
Now, it just for everyone's edification, what we're talking about here is the restructuring of what is essentially an illegitimate system. Correct? I mean, like
that is correct.
Yeah, the United States and its courts and contract law, it's all operating in an illegitimate fashion. So,
yes.
And I would imagine that that's where the trouble comes in, because you have people who are operating under it, who have an assumed level of authority, and who just absolutely disavow that they've done anything wrong, or that they're operating in a manner other than what is it's just assumed to be correct. Now,
if they contact the U.S. Marshal Eric Anderson, he was the one that verified. I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was brought in under phony charges. Basically, the U.S. prosecutor's name was Donald Davis. He was spitting in my face and dancing all around me and told me that George Bush gave him the authorization to hurt me.
Oh, wow.
And they were going to hold me for 25 years, and that they use adverbs, verbs, adjectives, and pronouns. They knew that I used prepositional phrases to certify my facts, and that they were not going to use any facts. And they were dancing around and pushing me, and they had me handcuffed in a chair. Real tough guys, you know how it works. Spitting and, scumming me up in the face. And, and the U.S. Marshals come bolting into the room and pushed them back. They said, "You don't get it. This guy ain't afraid of you. He ain't afraid of us. He ain't afraid of 100 people standing behind us." And they took me out of the room, and they confessed to me, "Hey, we watched you take over the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. That's you in the videos." I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." I says, "They took gold filing from me." And, they were real concerned about, they said, "What about the court-martialing of Bush and Cheney?" I says, "They don't have authorization to exist. It's a phony fakeness against the planet." And a lot of people got hurt. And that was unfortunate. They created their own concept. They created this mysticism, boogeyman terrorism. You can't have a war against the ideology. There has to be some form of opponent.
Yeah.
Somebody to combat against.
Right.
This is just a psyop. Of course, the American people. I ran down to the Pentagon, during my when I ordered the U.S. Supreme Court open. The Department of Defense was and the U.S. Navy was very nice to me. They stood at attention. They opened doors for me in Washington, D.C. at the time, because I had to navigate my foreign commerce into their foreign country, Washington, D.C. So I sat down with the United States International Trade Commission in August of 2004. And then I sat down with the head of one of the deputy directors of Homeland Security, and his words to me were flat out. They took me outside, me and David, they were outside the building in Crystal City, and they said, Russell, they said, the American people are such pussies, pardon my language, sir, are such wimps that they're going to fall for our concepts. I says, well, you guys don't have our authorization to exist as a corporation. They're like, no, but the Americans are such wimps. They believe this stuff. And so it was real unfortunate to see the PSYOP. And I've, of course, had my issues with the Homeland Security, as you can imagine, from the former and the past, from the Obama and the Clintons. They would say, they'd always give me the pat down because, I don't like you. I'm searching for correctness. I'm searching for honesty. And when I see these X-ray machines at these airports, well, I don't participate with technology I don't comprehend. And I don't comprehend the frequencies that's coming off that. I'm a pretty bright guy. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to study. Like I told Homeland Security, I bill out at about $10,000 an hour. I says I'm willing to study for 10, about 5 years and make a determination whether that equipment's safe enough for me to go across. They said, well, you should get TSA pre-approved. I says, well, how can I do that when you guys don't have authorization to exist as a corporation?
What are you going to do, you know?
What are you going to do? You know? So they tossed me out of there. I says, I can completely comprehend why you guys want to put your hands on me and fill me up. That's technology I comprehend. Oh, you got a smart mouth. Get out of here. I'm like, no, I get that. I don't get that.
Yeah.
I said, you got everybody standing in line. You got them standing on their toes. You got them taking off their shoes. You got them taking off their belts. You're belittling we the people.
Exactly.
You're demoralizing the spirit of who we are. The American people need to grow a damn backbone and do something. But they're cowards. And I'll call it as it is. You look for fake news, they need to look in their own eyes. They need to look in their own hearts. They need to search their own heart and make a find whether they got this courage to do the correct thing when no one's looking and when everyone's looking.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I think that part of the problem is that we've been living under what is essentially, like this era of propaganda. I mean, everything around us is propaganda, and then everything that they are putting upon us, like, you know, the TSA screening machines, the frequencies, the chemicals in the food, all of it is designed to break us down and lower our mental capacity, and, you know, essentially make us pliable and like cattle. So people, so I mean, it's like it's one of those things. In order to wake up, there are so many things that people have to be willing to change. I really want to send you the link to the show we did last night because we touched on all of these things. And until people realize, just how far-reaching this, technological dictatorship is that they've got us under the rule of, then they won't really get it. Unfortunately, obviously, my audience is very awake and aware, but we've got a heck of a job to do. Robert, is that you? Are you in there twice? Okay.
Roger that. I was working on comms issues, brother. So.
I understand.
Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, well, thank you.
Gosh.
Thank you, Robert. I'm glad that you made it.
Thank you very much.
So here's a question I had for you, Russell. It seems like there were certain entities in the U.S. government, or what is masquerading as the U.S. government, that were willing to work with you and were willing to give you the respect that you were asking for. And then there were others that actually, just didn't care. I mean, that essentially, like, the extension of the Clintons and the old neocon government that we had before. Real quick, before you get into the specifics on that, I just need to say thank you to Witchy Poo. She said, you're my hero, Mr. Gould. Then Cheryl Carmel, thank you for that super chat. Ben Schwagel, Serpent Seed. Ben Schwagel wanted me to ask you if you are aware of the serpent seed. Robert is. Yeah. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later in the show, but because I haven't had anyone on yet to talk about it. So if you'd like to speak on it, Robert, that'd be great.
Oh boy, something I don't really like to dabble in, but
no problem.
People ask.
Yeah. And then M Biggs says my IQ goes up with every live stream. Thank you, Red Pill. Well, M Biggs, thank you very much for that. Okay, so yeah, please. With regards to your experience working with different people in Washington, D.C., I mean, was there something specific, like a specific trait or a type of person that you can identify that understood what you were doing? Or was it just, random? People either understood or they didn't?
Well, it was kind of a mixed bag. When I had the chance to continually have conversations and dialogues with specific people, they could track what I was saying. But for the most part, it was so corrupt. I will say this. I'm going to paraphrase. I went down to Washington, D.C. about 2 years ago now, to JBAB with Robert to the headquarters of the U.S. Secret Service. And we sat down with the Secret Service agents at JBAB. And their correspondence to me was, Russell, you're a good guy. There's a lot of really bad people out here. You need to be real cautious on how you conduct. and they gave me, and they were very, so I'm not going to bash the Trump echelon because they were a different style. I'd never experienced, had a memory of that in the past. In the past, when I'm dealing with like U.S. Secret Service agents, like for instance, I was on at FU Warren Air Force Base. I mailed myself onto a nuclear missile site because I needed to do some technical things. I don't want to get into classification of that right now. There's a lot of national security concerns. Anyway, so I walked onto a military base as Postmaster-General, and of course, they brought in, they didn't know what to do with me. They put me in like a little chapel, and they brought in Secret Service finally at the end of the day. And the Secret Service agent comes in, and I grab his phone. He's like, Dick Cheney's really mad at you. And I grab his cell phone out of his hand. I slam it on the ground. I grab the Secret Service agent, chuck him up against the wall. And I go, you listen here. He says, when I give you a command, you step in line. I said, I don't give a damn what that piece of crap thinks of me. I says, I'm the man. He's a scumbag. And so I didn't have to have that with the Trump thing, right? So it was really, really a different spirit. Of course, the U.S. military agents that were holding machine guns, they just sat back and watched me throw around Secret Service, right? They were just like, whoa, cool. And then they all wanted to talk when we went outside about what was going on. I says, yeah, court-martialed those scumbags. I says, I needed him here because I needed to brief him down of specific things because he was hurting the people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have a conversation. When you're hurting the people, I want to have a conversation with you. I'm not happy with you. See, here's the beauty of what's been created by David Winkle and Miller and myself. The beauty is that we use preposition or prepositional phrase language. So grammar, syntax. So we can preposition using the article to command the authority of the fact, which is the performance. Now we have the verb of thinking. What's really cool about this is we can now break down the condition of thinking. Why was the performance created? Was it created to create harm against our fellow mankind?
There we go. Yeah, this is the linchpin of it right here. So let's talk about that. It looks like Robert needs to step away for a minute. Robert, we're having some microphone issues too. I don't know if there's a secondary mic on that headset, but it for some reason it keeps like giving.
How about now? Can you hear me?
No. Is there like an air conditioner going in the background or something?
Yeah, there it is. There's a big one going.
Okay, that's what it is. That's what it is.
All right, I'll try to move away from this location, but give me a minute. I got to step away for about 10 mics. I'll be right back.
That's not a problem. You go for it. I'm just going to mute you until you come back. Okay, great. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this, okay? So you developed, well, I'm not going to tell you why. Why did you develop the quantum grammar structure, and how did you come to this point? Because I know that in 1999, that's like the big day that Robert has talked about, and you mentioned it already. But how did you get to that point where you realized that there was this fraud that had been put upon us by the law and by the courts?
Well, I was working with David Winkle and Miller, and he punched a hole in the syntax where he found through mathematics that sentence structure was a linear equation. Okay. And so he was at the time, he was writing in prepositional phrases in a sentence structure, but he was using past tense suffixes and future tense adverbs as his prepositions. And I was working at the time, I was talking with Navy JAG because I was direct with them I was learning shipping. I was working with the U.S. Postal Service at the time, a postmaster out of Lander, Wyoming. He was teaching me mechanics of the post office. I was working just learning about shipping and all the ports and how all those constructs come together through the bills of the ladings, okay, and how those manifests work. And one of the things that the conversations was because we were looking at at now space, and I comprehended that everything had to be in the now. So we called up David. I was working with another gentleman, and we called up David and we told him, "Hey, this has got to be now space. Everything's got to be locked into the now."
You mean as opposed to future or past tense?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. See, once you do that, here's the beauty of this: it does away with their ability to hide behind an oath, because now you can preposition set the fact to now break down the condition of thinking, why the performance was created and how that performance created a causality for our society.
Can you
So-
can we take we take a sentence that would be, say, in a contract right now? Can you translate it for us? Like show us what it is now, and then show us what it would be in quantum grammar. And I just want to say, President Trump just tweeted that something very big has just happened. That's a big statement to make, you guys. And I had a lot of people putting it in the chat, so we'll definitely follow up on that before the end of the night, guys. But yes, just as an example, because I think for some people it's kind of a nebulous concept if they don't have something in front of them.
Yeah, something like if you don't comply under the penalty of perjury.
Okay.
Right? So under the penalty of perjury, it depends on what comes in front of it. Okay, that's called syntax. It means the word in front of it manipulates the condition of what that word actually is.
Okay.
So we'd have to look at what word was under the penalty of perjury, because it doesn't have a preposition, because under moves you out of time and space. So that's a negative condition. So we only put things with the penalty of the perjury.
Okay.
But we want to break that. So it doesn't become an adverb verb scenario. We make it a fact.
Okay.
And so you want to really watch the words and what's around them, because it influences the condition of what the word is. Like a lot of people have on their driver's license, and I'm guilty of it too. We have on our driver's licenses, we can't get around it. We'll have like state of Texas. State is a pronoun, of is an adverb, making Texas a verb because it lacks the article. Instead of saying of the Texas or of this Texas, if you're there, right? You're creating a specific, or if you're a pluralism of citizens, of our Texas, right? And so you have to look at these words. Otherwise, you create a verb. If you say of Texas, you're creating a verb. Show me the verb in the dictionary, Texas.
Right. It isn't there.
It isn't there. Yeah, it's crazy. So as we found this, and the first time I really saw this work, we were in front of Alan Simpson, a U.S. Senator out of Wyoming. And we walked up to him. We were in Casper, Wyoming at the Casper Event Center. And David and I had a $1 bill, and we pulled it out, and we showed him America as a verb on the money. And I watched Alan Simpson take off a running. And I knew we had him. I'm like, holy cow.
Right. Why else would it make him nervous?
It made him extremely nervous. Yeah. We walked in on February 20th of 2003. We were at Hotel Washington at the Senate Judicial Committee under postal reform. Mm-hmm. And we had a surveillance crew in behind me. And the supposed Postmaster General of the United States Postal Service, well, that's me, right?
Right.
I'm the Postmaster-General. When I talked to Postmaster General at the time, William Henderson, guess what he did? He retired within 72 hours. Why? Because he had knowledge. He wasn't the Postmaster General. He's just a scam, right? Wow. So when the Postmaster General at the time, his name was Potter, came in to speak, as soon as he saw me, I didn't even see him. He took off a run, and my surveillance team watched him. He took off a running out of the building. My buddy jumped in the elevator with him and Secret Service, and he's yelling at Secret Service, "Get me away from Gould. I can't even be in the same building as him." Why? Because I'm now space. He's past and he's future. He has no control over now space. He only has control of something that doesn't exist because he doesn't exist. So unfortunately, the American people are caught up in the subject matter and are not paying close view and really breaking down the locations, the grammar, the timelines. And so what the sacrifice that I made, they were constantly trying to get the U.S. government, U.S. Attorney's Office, let me clarify that, and through the U.S. Marshals with the physicality, mm-hmm. to get me to surrender my postal number. Well, as the years go on, I fought real hard for that to maintain the continuance of the evidence. And then all of a sudden I get all this identity theft where people are using my number all over the world, right? It's like, be like me taking some of your numbers for your contracting world.
Sure.
Putting them on my paperwork.
Like a tax ID or something.
Yeah. IRS was kicked out of the United States in 1999. right? That's the year that all citizens of the United States no longer, they told you you'll no longer pay the Internal Revenue Service with your check. You'll write it to the U.S. Treasury. But everybody was so psychologically afraid of the Internal Revenue Service as an adjective pronoun that they had to keep them in position. Then, because they couldn't reauthorize it because it was never authorized, because they'd have to reauthorize a Congress. When I watch what's happening on now, when did the citizens of this country authorize Congress since the bankruptcy in 1999?
Hasn't.
Oh, so everything that they're coming out of their mouths is treason. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. It's treason against we the people. At least the people, you know, Trump engaged in a pronoun adverb under a statement of candidacy. I disqualified the Federal Elections Commission. They know that, right? I've already wrote the Federal Elections Commission. Because of the laws of boxing under Stiles, to run for president of the United States, you had to fill out, they were all compartmentalized boxes to break the continuance of evidence from one section to another. But at least the people voted him in.
Mm-hmm.
That I can honor, right? The people wanted him in position, and I honor that. Not going to go bashing anybody because it's the people's will. The people want me in a position to go talk to Mr. Trump. Give me 72 hours with the guy. The country won't be the same. The people won't be broke.
Now this leads us into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, the quantum economic system that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
So how, and like I said earlier, the biggest fear that I see my viewers have, and I'm guilty of it as well, because I only have so much money. I've got a stack of silver, and I've got skills that I can use to barter with people, but we need to have like a national monetary system. I mean, there's got to be something so
Yes.
that the money for the country has value in other countries. And you had mentioned the quantum banking system in use in other countries as well. So what is this? What is the quantum banking system?
Well, unfortunately, my partner at the time, unbeknownst to me, took one of my constructs for authorizing banks, and he gave it to the Chinese military. He went over to China and gave it to the Chinese military, and 48 days later, after the 45-day moratorium, 3-day rescission, they announced the BRICS Bank, where they took all my concepts, dropped all the prepositional phrases, and put in an adverb because China wasn't smart enough to start up their own banking system.
Right.
So I met with the Chinese ambassador 3 times at the United Nations. Each time I got ran out of the embassy, and people can go watch. Oh, what do you got there?
My cat. She won't shut up until I touch her.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Now she'll be
My
quiet
wife
in just
got
a
a
minute, and
mess
I can
of
put her back down again.
There you go. There you go. What kind of cat you got?
She is a Seal Point Siamese.
Oh, that's a unique cat.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, okay.
She's beautiful. Okay, Simone.
How
See?
old?
Now look, I pet you. Now you can get down.
Oh, right
There
on.
we go. Okay, she doesn't want to leave. Okay, all right. So now this is one question that I had too. Did they rewrite the way that it was? Did they change the way it was written due to the difference in sentence structure with the Chinese language? And do other languages across the globe? Would their contract laws be illegitimate in the same way as it is here in the United States, because they also have different structures to their sentences? I've heard that English is it's a very odd sentence structure and syntax, and many people have a problem learning it when they come here from another country.
Yes, and this is true. But what I did for the Americans and for the world, but for here, because I love my home, you have to understand, I love the citizens here. I feel real sorry for what I'm seeing out here.
Yeah.
If I could, I would do much, much more for us. But the contract structure, now I want you to watch how this works. So you're talking about other nations and their syntax. They file what's called a styles manual. That styles manual is on file with the International Bureau of Weights and Measures.
Okay.
Which is an adjective pronoun adverb scenario, which I disqualified in 2004. David was not on those contracts. Those were my untowings and my doings when I was engaged in the court-martialing of Bush and Cheney. So I found that when I disqualified them, now watch how this goes, contracts with, so the styles of other people's nations were disqualified for fraudulent grammar. And that International Bureau of Weights and Measures was linked to the Universal Postal Union, who I had already met with in 2003. And I had disqualified in 2001. So the umbrella for a worldwide networking of quantum can now be placed in these other nations, where they could board the construct, autograph the stamps, and move forward. Now, you are correct. English language, some of the words are not the same in other languages. Mm-hmm. So as I do Arabic, and I'm doing a lot of different translations right now for a lot of different nations. So as I do different styles of syntax from different countries, I have to change the construct of the English to use the synonym to keep the same volition of sentence structure, so it remains singular and simple.
That's got to be incredibly complicated.
Not really, not really, because the math problem for this is 1 + 2 = 3, 3 - 2 = 1. What goes in comes out. It's a mirror coming in and out.
Okay. I guess I was just thinking about knowing each of these languages. Or
well, thank goodness for Google Translate.
Yeah.
Just being honest with you.
All
And
right.
thank goodness there are a lot of good computer programmers that I have on my team.
Good.
That keep me, making sure that I have, because I'm about the people. I'm about helping the people and making sure that the governments are nothing more than administrative mechanics, and downgrading the red, and which will get rid of a lot of the red tape, which will open up the GDP of these countries, provide jobs. You know the story.
Sure.
GMOs, no big pharma.
Yeah.
The hospitals and the doctors. All of this is really, really bad for the people.
Oh yeah.
Right? What they're giving us and telling us is health is fake news.
Oh yeah.
That's just how it is, right? There's so much that can be done with frequency, and so many things that can be done in the monoatomic world that would boggle the mind. What it will do when you give that technology to erase cellular memory, so to speak, and imprint cellular memory that will create harmony. Simultaneously, you got to do with all the social engineering that's going on. Mm-hmm. So it's a difficult thing, as you know, because of the social media, the bombardment, the 5G. I mean, you guys know, your audience knows the war that we're in. Mm-hmm. The main thing is that we have to stay networked one with another. We have to share, and it's hard to share. Right? Because people, when you can't unlearn people once you teach them things. And then people are always so bound to the mighty dollar.
Yeah.
And they're so attached to it. And so that is also a difficult thing. And so I even have to check myself constantly, because like I told you at the beginning of the show, I have been my own worst enemy. I have blown myself up, locked myself up in court more times than you guys could ever imagine. Just learning the gambit of the now that the U.S. judicial system is closed, during the court-martialing of the U.S. military and the Bush gang, I shut down the World Court at The Hague simultaneously. So that was in January 2005. That was filed, and I went toe-to-toe with the head clerk at The Hague, the International Peace Palace.
Now,
anyway, that's another story. But,
well, I've got some questions from the audience I wanted to go through here.
Sure.
Let's see. Nicholas Wills, thank you for the super chat, says, ask if they are familiar with the Mana World Holding Trust.
Fake news?
Mana World Holding Trust. Do you know?
Adjective, pronoun, no fact, totally fake, no authorization, totally tricking people. Where's their flag? Where's their bridge building? Where's their port? Where's their grammar? Where's their authorization? Oh, you mean they started up when? In 2005, whatever, after the fact. This is fake news. Nothing to be concerned about. Move on.
So, well, this ties in with that. When you deliver an order of dissolution to a place like The Hague or some other agency, what is the response that you get? How do they communicate that back to you? Because they, it's either real or it's not for them.
I syntax their paperwork.
Yeah.
Send it back to them for fraud, and tell them to quit using their necromancy.
Okay.
Because they're coming at me with their cursive writing, and I'm not a dead person.
Okay.
So when you look up cursive,
yes, I was going to ask.
yourself into your audience knows.
Yep.
I don't have to tell you guys. You already know.
Yep.
Right. So it's a frustrating thing that we were taught this, and believe me, it's not our teachers' fault. They were just part of the learning at the time.
Right. Right.
You can't. This is a humbling thing to know that your teachers, with knowledge, didn't know. So that you can't blame them, and you can't blame the system. You have to fix it. And so I've made my best foot forward to show mankind that there's a peaceful way to change things. And you have to do it from a neutral position as well.
Right.
And that's the beauty of being in now space. You're always in a suspended neutral state. Therefore, you're not in the war zone.
Now, this actually goes back to a statement that you made earlier. You had mentioned your team. How many people do you have working with you? And do you have people just here in the United States, or is it like in other countries? You've got other satellite offices?
Yeah, I've got other postal stations and other port venues set up in other locations.
Okay.
As the people need to use those, they will be implemented. It's for the people.
Yeah.
It's not about me.
Right.
Right. And so it's about making it user friendly for the people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad actors even in the grammar world, and so I'm running into this now, which I would have never thought, because this is about honesty, about being fair, by creating a level playing field for your fellow mankind. And yet you have people in here that are going against corporate structure that has been set up far before they ever learned quantum grammar. Right? Far before they ever. I got to comprehend. I'm on a 25-year plight on this. It's a long venue. It's been a long road to hoe. There's a lot of people in the last 5, 6, 7 years that are coming in saying, "Oh, we're this, we're that." I'm like, looking at my corporate structure, going, "Wait a minute, I don't see their names anywhere here."
So people claiming to have set up something under this system, but then they haven't gone through the official channel, which was set up by you to make it legal. Okay.
Correct.
I can see that. I can see that. Now,
and if they file with me, I'm going to pitch it in the trash, and they know it, because first of all, it's about neutrality, and it's about giving closure first. So that's why I've always given, the illusion of the government full closure and transparency. That way, when I walk into the federal buildings, or into that, I've earned the honor. Wasn't given to me. They don't like me. I don't like them for what they do to the people. Before the Trump game people, not gang, but the Trump people came aboard, the U.S. Secret Service used to say, "Russell, why are you always cussing us out? Why are you always calling us this and that and this and that?" I said, "It's not me talking. It's the millions you're screwing."
Right. I feel you. Russell, what is the best way for people to start learning about this? I mean, do you have a central website? Do you have books?
I have teachers out there that are coming along that have been learning the grammar. There's a couple of guys that are doing a real good job. For one of the guys, his name is Jason-Matthew-Glass. He's been studying the grammar for quite a while. And what's really nice about that guy, I don't even know him, but when he makes a claim and I send him the proof that it's already been established, that guy stops and corrects. Right? Whoa, you got my honor, dude. You gonna stop and correct once you learn something? Sweet. I'm gonna make sure that guy has people. Another guy, there's a guy out of Texas. His name is Joey-John-Lester. He's good. And then there's a lot of guys, unfortunately, that really know the grammar, but they don't want to be known because they see what's happened to me. They see the fights and the fury and all the things that have come after me, and they've learned it. They're awesome. They're federal life and postal life and judges, but they're not out there claiming this and claiming that. They're just using it for their own individual businesses and stuff like that. So there's people in Australia doing that. There's a guy in Thailand that's actually pretty good. There's people all over the place. A guy in Philippines is real good. A guy down in Panama is real good. There are people all over the place that are doing the correct thing when no one's looking.
So,
and for them, I tip my hat to.
How can someone put this in action in their own lives and use it to make a difference?
Well, it starts with comprehending about how the birth certificate system doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
And those people with the birth certificate don't actually have the capacity for the statement of a claim, right? Because they're involved in usury on something that already went bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about getting a claim of the life first and establishing your life. And then you're learning how to implement that onto your passport, onto your driver's license, how to send it into the states or the territories in a correct format and correct function.
Now, real quick, before you continue with that, is that like this sovereign citizen concept?
No,
not the same.
There's no such thing. No, that's an oxymoron.
Okay.
First of all, you can't be a sovereign citizen because that's a power of one, and citizen is corporate. So anybody saying they're a sovereign citizen is creating an oxymoron as an adjective pronoun and doesn't comprehend where they're at in time. It's the corporate structure of usury. Because we have our sovereignty, every one of us is sovereign. Mm-hmm. But as we convey our thoughts and our business conduct, we go corporate. Mm-hmm. And so comprehending how to establish timelines in that and the protocols. And I learned all this in the middle of the courtroom. That's why I became Chief Judge of the U.S. Supreme Court, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It was learned. It was going in. It was doing the functions. It was the filing fees, the mechanics, all the things that got me there. And then, by the grace of my Creator, Jesus Christ, He's my personal Lord and Savior. He put me in a position on these timelines, and I figured out when the United States was coming out of bankruptcy, and I dug in, and it was not easy.
How did you get clued into the fact that this was your moment and that you needed to grab it?
Okay, so I was studying the stock market crash of 1929. I was looking at the protocols of how the finances were moving, who was doing publications in that time frame, and we found a notice. David Eifelwinkel Miller and I found a notice from the Rothschild banking cartel that they were going to be withdrawing all their money out of the banks.
Okay. Like a notice in the paper?
No, it was a written notice.
Okay.
Written notice. And they gave 3-day notice, and then that was the start of the stock market crash. 70 years is a moratorium for international bankruptcy. I'd studied that before under the Foreign Sovereigns Immunity Act under Title 28, 1605 through 1632. Mm-hmm. And I syntexed that and learned all the secrets there. And then I figured out, like I was studying at the time dictionaries and old shipping manifests from like the 1300s, 1400s, and I was kind of a geek, kind of a nerdy guy, going all over the place, collecting old dictionaries and studying styles of syntax. And in the 1800s, they didn't call an article to command the authority of the noun. They called it either a post, P-O-S-T, mm-hmm. or a set, S-E-T. So I went back to the old Latin, Greek, and figured out how that all got bastardized and how this thing worked. And I was working with David Eifelwinkel Miller, and I spent 5 years studying dictionaries and prefixes and suffixes and adverbs and adjectives and pronouns and, dangling participle verbs and gerund nouns and, all the subjective and declarative and explanatory, EX, all these negative words. And started figuring out that this all broke down to no contract, no contract, no contract. Well, during that time frame, I realized I was studying the postal real hard, and under Title 39, Section 101, subsection A, subsection B, the post office was always to maintain a constitution and a president. Well, since the guidelines, I was fortunate enough to go into the Benjamin Franklin Postal Library in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the United States Post Office was kind enough to unlock the doors and open up the glass cases for me so I could get into his bank books. And in his bank books, he was a surveyor coming out of Canada. He was a French attorney, and he was a triple agent through France, England, and the United States. And he borrowed 1.6 million francs on July 1st, 1775. Well, nothing becomes law for 1 year, 1 day, and there's a thing called 3-day rescission. July 4th, 1776. And so then you had your money trail and led to October 29th, led to the Civil War, all that. When the 5 southern states seceded, Abraham Lincoln went to renew the bankruptcy because he was in the year of a 7-year moratorium. A 70-year, I apologize, a 70-year. And you know what he had to do? He had to go recruit 5 states because the banking families told him no. The royalty told him no. So he had to pick up Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So when the United States ceased to exist in 1999, that's when the Pentagon dropped me into a fake situation. And I remember I was talking to a vice admiral at the clearing station for Federal Bureau of Prisons in Oklahoma City, and he's like, the Pentagon's dropping you into your first war. You get Gould versus Michigan because it was one of the 5 states. I was, what do you mean? I'm Chief Judge of the United States. I own the federal courts. He goes, you'll see when you get there. It's like, all right. So I walked into the federal courts there, and lo and behold, what's flying in the federal courts? The state flag with the spear on top, saying the state was at war with the feds. Okay. Why? Because it was one of the states that was had to be picked up by Abraham Lincoln to renew the bankruptcy so they could borrow money to fight the South. Okay. So I knew the tricks, right? And under the Union Jack, there was 13 stars, and he only had 8 state representation, so he had to pick up 5 states when the 5 states seceded. Okay. So that's how that worked. And then I studied from there. And it took me to 1929 and a 70-year moratorium. And like I was saying, under Title 39, Section 101, subsection A and B, I knew, because I was really heavy into the postal and really had it dialed. So I'm dialed in on a global postal scale. I'm the man, just how it is. No, I'm not trying. I feel you. Yeah, it is what. That's a fact. It's a fact. Yeah. I met with the top smartest 3 people in the world at the Universal Postal Union on it, and I ate their lunch, and they damn well know it, and they were not laughing. Promise you. That's great. Anyway, back to this thing of the president. They had to maintain a presidency, and they had to maintain a constitution. Well, because nothing became law for 1 year, 1 day, 3-day rescission, July 4, 1776, that was the day they gave us the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. They had to vacate that because that was the guidelines for the trusteeship, which was the president. Mm-hmm. So they had to vacate the presidency, they had to vacate the Constitution, they had to vacate the Bill of Rights, and they made a real weak attempt with the Florida Chads, and you see them all down there doing their nonsense. Yep. Well, then they walk into a foreign vessel in dry dock and give you an opinion on 19 days, not 18 days, to break the continuance of the evidence. It's a federal judge and know exactly what's going on with those timelines. And on the banking, all on the timeline. It's all on the timeline, guys. All of it. Yeah, this is all timelines. Yeah, this is not. I'm not. First of all, RPG. I'm not giving any classified secrets out tonight. That's good. Right? Good. This is national. I'm a national security concern, and that's no kidding. Right? I know things about things about things about things. Well, knowledge is power, and if you give people the power to unlock, like the golden goose. You know, I mean, like this is, it's one of those things that it's because it is so different from everything that we've been taught and the structure that we've been told is what exists. It's difficult for people to pick it up at first, you know? I mean, and that's why I'm glad that you're going over this again. We Robert and I talked about it last time, but it is a massive subject. I mean, we're talking about you know, this structure that's existed, you know, literally since the beginning of our country. Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's been exploited.
It's the biggest red pill you'll ever swallow.
Yes. Yeah. Let me try to put her down. Absolutely. And I was blessed enough to be able to have the time to study, have the courage and the capacity to dig in. And then at that point, because of my courage and conviction, judges would sometimes choose to work with me, which means what that would mean, RPG, is that they would come off the bench. They would take off their robes. They'd sit across the table from me, and we'd have conversations on whatever the financial shipping or whatever conversations, the condition of thinking, because I maintained a position of humbleness at all times. Even though I was being beat down, look, I've been in the middle of the courtroom where they've come out and just beat my ass. Beat my butt, pardon me. Right. Beat my butt. Right?
We're already demonetized, don't worry.
yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
And then they'd come in and they'd whip my butt, right? And I'd be down, stumbling to the ground, and they'd be on top of me, beating the hell out of me, right? But I have courage. I know I'm correct. I know that this can be used by the people. I know it can be used by me. I know for a fact. I've used it. The technology is sound. The problem is how do I transfer it over to administrations that have been there?
Right.
Because I've not seen the condition of heart that helps the people. There's the problem.
Yeah.
Those Obama scumbags were about the biggest scumbags you ever did see. Bush's were even worse.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm watching Mr. Trump. I'm watching all these things. He's surrounded by idiots. That's his problem, not my problem. Right. I'll surround myself. I like the people I hang out with. I had a great conversation all day today. People I style around with, good to go, no doubt. Unfortunately for him, it seems that he's always why isn't he just going away with the military? Go ahead and take all them senators, take them down to their nearest street quarters and stick them up on a pole and hang them for treason. There is no Congress. This is fake. 100% fake. Why are you wasting the American citizens' thought process, the mechanics of our thought thinking and social engineering, telling us that there's a coup or that there's a no impeachment or that there's this or there's that? That's Ken and Barbie fake news. It's not factual.
Right.
How could it? Where did Congress reauthorize? I'm not seeing it. Can you, RPG? Can you show it to me, please?
I never saw it. I've never seen it, and very few people even are aware that there was another bankruptcy in 1999. It's something that only within weeks of Robert making contact with me had I any knowledge of it. Someone had sent me a video, which was it was like senators and congressmen coming up and going up to the podium and speaking about, this bankruptcy of the United States. And I was like, this happened, I mean, like, it's one of those things. It's real. It exists. We just weren't told about it. And the rules that were in place to re-legitimize the United States and everything else, they just glazed over it because, as you stated, they think that we're just too stupid. But the problem is, if we never knew about it, then how can somebody even understand what's going on? Real quick, Russell, I just need to give a couple of thank yous. Paul Marshall said thank you. Thank you, Paul, for that. 41020 Patriot, thank you for that. Charles Pixley will be back on the program here in a couple weeks, guys. I think he's going to be on the 9th. He says, we must preserve the language. He and David did it. This omnipotent power is now in our hands. I've joined the study group and will order the DWM books from the trust. My now time goal is to learn and partner with Russell if he'll allow. Charles Pixley is one of the best people that I have ever met. So, Russell, if there was somebody that I was going to say that you should take on as an apprentice, Charles is that person. He is an incredible man, very, very intelligent. He's great. You can see him in 2 weeks. He'll be on the program. Cool. You can watch and see him then.
Cool.
Also,
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know about the DWM books because they were, when he died, all that authorization went away. What trust? What is he talking about?
I don't know. Maybe this is one of those people. Maybe this is something having to do with people using this quantum grammar syntax, and they're not trustworthy. I don't know. I'll talk to Charles afterwards. Charles, if you want to throw it in the chat box, then I'll see if I can add that to your question.
Thank you. Yeah, I've never heard of such a thing.
No problem.
I'm just trying to figure that out. Yeah.
And then Paul Marshall says, does Mr. Gould endorse the forum that is $100 a year or $25 monthly? Does that sound familiar? Do you have something set up like that?
I have nothing. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Never heard of the thing.
All right. This sounds like, again, like perhaps a scheme set up that you're not associated with. Also, Tanette Booth says, what's with the China cheap and free shipping thing? Can you comment on that?
Well, that's a bad deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair for anyone. And if you look at the customs and policies on the tariff, so I wrote a 30,000 page document or contract where, unfortunately, at the time I was working with David Eiffelin Miller, and he was giving directly to bad people, certifiably bad people. Mm-hmm. And they were taking those concepts and locking themselves in under perpetual, what we call franking or fee freight way bills. But I did not authorize those. And so when the chance comes and the military supports me on this, we will put a block on that. And then we will renegotiate those contracts to make it fair and same for all countries.
Did you, how did David die? Did David die of natural causes, or was it something related to what you guys were doing?
David had adrenal glands taken out of him, and it affected his body very negatively. And then he made choices to eat not very at McDonald's all the time.
Okay. All right.
Why? I don't.
All right. So it was. So I just want to make sure that he wasn't.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right.
So when he passed on, within the 45-day trust moratorium, I complied with our living constructs of the corporate structure of what we had set up, and I conducted a eulogy, as well as, if you listen to the eulogy, the terms of the copyright, because I'm the only one with copyright release on the technology. And I had to get those when I was court-martialing Bush and Cheney. He conducted himself in front of the FBI. This is documented by the FBI. He conducted himself on the wrong side of what I would call the honesty. He sided up with Bush and Cheney. And
David did?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he boarded a vessel as an adjective pronoun, and he didn't use punctuation, and I called him on it. And that's when I got copyright release that day. I had to actually, because of the martial law criteria, he came at me, and there was an altercation.
Okay.
And the FBI was there, and at that day he surrendered. And then when we went to, I had that contract, and that's when I continued forward against the World Court at The Hague, and the court-martialing, and then they took him up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, brought us both in the courtroom at the same time, and he had to surrender the flag because he had surrendered copyright release at that time. Federal government knew this, U.S. Marshal Service, when I got in the back room after that trial, because they had to release me. The U.S. Marshals said, "Congratulations, you separated from him. Good job. You're honest."
Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
it's no fun.
No, I understand. Dave Stealth Bomber asked, what does Mr. Gould think about the Article 5 Convention of the States? Do you have an opinion on that?
Here's some of the concepts of the problems of that. So you have these territorial locations, states, and on each state and each governor's office flies the state flag. But on top of the flag standard sits the spear or the spire, which now is a form of condition of state of martial law. During times of condition of state of martial law, the state flag and constitution and rights are gone. So they've moved into a dictatorship, and the territories and states are not publishing their own money. Therefore, they're in the usury of the postal construct, and they maintain you through their condition of war because they give you no state rights, because the spear sits on top of the flag standard, which suspends contract.
Okay.
So you would want to go look, RPG, good question. You'd want to start off in Army Regulation 840-10, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 210, and that will give you on closure on the order of operations of the flag standards. That will help you before you ask a question, so you know where you're at in time and space. because if you don't know where you're at, you might get lost.
Absolutely. Curious Querier says, can Russell patent or declare quantum parse syntax as sole intellectual property? Did you say that you have already copyrighted?
I have a copyright lease from David.
Okay.
So that was all demonstrated on the Reno-seminar Tilde 1, Tilde 2, Tilde 3 on YouTube.
Yes.
And so people can watch that and they can, oh, that's what he's talking about. So
yes, I actually, before Robert, this is also ironically, or perhaps maybe this is just how it was supposed to work out. This is fate. But a good friend of mine had shown me that seminar, like David talking in front of a whiteboard, I believe, if it's the same video, showed me that. And then it was also right after that I learned about the bankruptcy. And then right after that is when Robert contacted me, and here we are. So this is, it's been a series of dominoes on its way here.
I wrote the patents and copyrights to the quantum banking system and the quantum setting up venues and ports for shipping for tariffs, customs, and policies from nation to nation, as well as the diplomatic, consular, post mechanics of the Vienna Haifa Convention, rewritten in quantum constructs for diplomatic missions, as well as negotiating peace, negotiating agriculture, commerce, energy, all of that. It's been restructured.
All right. Now Charles answered. He says, teach help as he did. I drove to his position. I worked with David. Oh, he worked with David for about 11 to 12 years.
Oh,
I am the only judge that David gave an oath to, and that he actually performed my judgeship. Charles Pixley. Well,
no. Here's my question. It's not about getting a judge's oath. Is about taking it into the, what years were that? Number one, what years were that? Because of the, I can't see. There he is. What years were that? Just out of curiosity.
He said it. Well, Charles, you said it was 11 to 12 years. What year was that specifically? He'll drop that in the.
Like that'll help me with the construct answer.
Oh, I missed the two previous comments. Sorry, Charles. It was going a little fast. Let me cycle back here. Okay, so
sure.
No, he says, I am a relative of David. I was a student of David's, and he trained me to be a judge and told me in his estate that he wanted me to put me in his place.
How can that be when written contract was put into place prior to all of that?
Let me see.
This was the problem with David's health, is he couldn't freaking put it together. That's why I had to court-martial him, because he couldn't remember anything.
Ah, okay.
And so this is also a problem that I'm running into, is that he went out and tried to reauthorize all these people, and yet he had already established all these things, and he had already surrendered the flag in federal court.
I get
so
you.
How can he go out and reauthorize when he's already surrendered the flag?
Okay, all right. And then
in 2004.
It makes. I do have one more comment. He said a lady called Judge Keyline, $200 care of David Miller, P.O. Box 61, Brookfield, Wisconsin, who said that David instructed his trust to allow her to sell his book only. Hunaz 290 at Yahoo. I think what's best is if I just put you guys in contact, because if
for sure.
Yeah.
And please have them go to the redthumbclub.com.
Let me go there right now so I can show the audience.
That way Kayleen, they could, because David and I threw Kayleen out of quantum grammar in 2014 because she was not qualified to be in a position.
Got it.
So that here's the, I don't know how to answer the question.
Sure.
Because she was kicked out.
There it is right there.
Yeah, and then go to documents and then go to kicking Kayleen out. And that's David's autograph and thumbprint on the contract. And we kicked her out in, like, I think it was February 14th or 20th. It's 2014, I know that. It's February 14th or February 20th. I have to go look it up. I apologize. Hold on, let me find it.
Oh, Pixley says not a relative. Okay, Charles, I'm just going to put you guys in touch because it's too difficult for me.
Yeah, and I do apologize to Charles.
Yes.
Because if he doesn't have full closure, back to your question.
Yeah.
If the American citizens don't have full closure, how can they know? They're not held accountable for anything, but the powers to be that are there, they know.
Mm-hmm.
and they are accountable. And we, the people, are watching.
This is what I'm talking about when I was talking about some other stuff earlier. The fact of the matter is, David surrendered his position in the flag when he was in the courtroom during the Michigan trials. He stood down as a federal postal judge and surrendered his position within the corporation. He was no longer a federal judge at that point. Everybody needs to be made aware of that. And if you don't believe me, call the U.S. Marshals. They'll tell you flat out. That's the fact of the matter. Okay, he surrendered his position within Russell's corporate construct. He was no longer a member of the corporation other than as a grammar teacher.
Okay.
Or an advocate for the system. And this is the kind of problem we're running into with these Johnny-come-latelys out there and stuff like that. They're saying, oh, you know, he willed something to me. Well, he can't will something to you that doesn't belong to him anymore, or that he doesn't have any part of anymor.
Sure.
So that's just a minor issue. This is some of the smaller things.
I mean, as it's you know, something that I mean, it seems like there's information going, you know, first, second, third hand. And, you know, that's why I wanted to ask what the best way for people to get in touch with you directly was.
Yeah. For me, I have an email, forthechief@outlook.com.
Let me put that in there.
And that's a good way to get a hold of me. And if I don't get back to you right away, please comprehend I get buried in emails.
And then I'm also going to put the website, fortheredthumbclub.ca, actually. There we go. And then I see you've already got Robert's and I's video from last time uploaded on there as well.
Absolutely. Hey, RPG, we're giving you the props, bro.
There we go.
Absolutely. You share the love, we share the love.
Excellent. Here, I'm going to actually put...
It's grammar love, baby.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Hey, you could go to forthegrammarlove.com and learn all about that, too. There's one for you to pop in.
Okay, I will put that in, and I'll throw it here in the description of the video too. So if people don't catch it in the chat, then they'll have it right there. And then you said for the chief.
forthechief@outlook.com and forthegrammarlove.com.
Chief@outlook.com.
Yeah, that'll give you.
And then grammarlove.com. Let's go there right now.
I don't know if you guys had covered what we talked about earlier, RPG.
I'm great. So what was that?
I don't know if you guys talked about what we spoke about earlier with the document that I sent.
We did not. No, you weren't here, so I was waiting for you to come back.
Yeah, so this is really important, and America needs to come to understand this first and foremost. I got involved because this thing, I saw it as, you know, the great blessing that it is and that it can be, and I saw it also as very dangerous. Dangerous in that there are people out there who will take this system and this grammatical construct and this quantum syntax capability and use it to, say, create their own constitution, void of Commander Gould's authorization and or written and express consent, and then use that system to then, once they create their own constitution, go into another country and say, your constitution is disqualified and so are all your treaties and contracts, and we're going to invade you in an act of war. This is dangerous, dangerous stuff we're playing with here. And it has been my endeavor to get Commander Gould in front of Donald John Trump immediately, since they're fighting the deep state now, and the deep state was who kept Russell from moving in 1999 to save the country, if not the world itself, and get a medal pinned on his chest. First and foremost, this guy is one of the greatest patriots I've ever met in my life, and this was one of the greatest acts of revolution since the American Revolution itself, and not a shot was fired. I mean, this is some very powerful intellectual property, and I need President Donald Trump to bring him up to the White House, pin a medal on his chest, sit down and have some dinner with him, and lock this system down for the people of the United States so that there's some enforcement behind it. That way, if anybody does try to do something so nefarious, we can say, you know, you don't have that authorization, and it was definitely not given by the original architect or the person whose intellectual property this belongs to. So that's been my endeavor from the very start.
All right, excellent. And I'd just like to remind everybody that you got involved while you were still in government, and it wasn't just you and several of your friends figured out what was going on here. And the enforcement part is the thing that is necessary in order to have this roll out, isn't it? I mean, we have to get enough people on board to understand what's really going on, and then agree to enforce it. And taking it to President Trump is arguably the best way to do that, because I would say that he is on a path to move us away from this global system that we've been in all these years. Real quick, a couple more questions from the audience. God's Guy and Gina's Girl said, love you, Big Red. Prayers for you, nonstop. Bye for now. Driving back up the mountain. Drive me up the mountain. Okay, awesome. Yes, I will call you. And then Dave Stealth Bomber says, what's Mr. Gould's opinion regarding Q? Russell, do you follow Q?
I've heard of this. I don't follow people. I just am waiting and studying and constantly very, very vigilant in my technologies as far as how it can be used to help the people. So I know there's a lot of bad people there. I know there's a lot of good people like URPG and a lot of other radio shows out there that are giving closure and putting the light on these they're characters.
Yep.
Look, they don't want the quantum system coming forward, because now we can put their condition of thinking on trial and look at, why did you create this performance that created all this harm or devastation towards the planet or towards mankind or towards you enriched yourself, and yet you that caused all this harm over here, or you implemented this vaccine over here which creates all this consequence over here. Why? And so they can't hide behind their Jesuit oaths. I already sat down at the Vatican at the Secretary of State's office. They know me very well.
Really? You went to the Vatican? What happened?
Over the Vatican.
What happened when you went there? Like, what did you actually speak with the Pope, or did you speak with some other?
I spoke with the Secretary of State and 40 cardinals for 3 days.
Okay.
And I shut down the basilica in there, and we put on David and I put on a presentation of key master mechanics and what was going on the suspension of time and all the mechanics that Michelangelo was missing in his mathematics and all that. A lot of classified stuff. Okay. And then they treated up with me to run all banks and militaries on the planet because I had superior knowledge. 72 hours later, the Jesuits did their little maneuver and retired and got out of the way. And these were really bad people. And yeah, I was actually trying to physically get to them. Mm-hmm. And they had the Swiss guards and clowns in front of me, and David was on their side, of course. And I should have known then. Because I told him, I said, when I come back, I says, I'm remodeling the place. This is trash.
I like that. I like that a lot. Our friend Eminem says, hey, Red Pill 78, guests and Patriots, it's happening. Excitement plus love from Australia. You've got some fans down in Australia now, Russell, if you didn't before, because we've got lots of viewers from Australia.
Yeah, I'm the copyright owner of the Australian flags. They came out of a bankruptcy a couple of years ago, and I was in Australia in April, and
really
filed on the flag. Yeah, you could, if you on the film club, you can see those documents under the Australian sovereign flag. Yeah, that's me.
Let's see. What is that gonna? It's gonna be under documents.
Documents.
I'm getting it pulled up. Flag. And Australian sovereign flag contract.
There you go.
Now, let me go to that. Now, can you tell us when the United States was incorporated? I mean, because I have another guest coming up soon who discovered that he's in Australia. He discovered that the country of Australia had been incorporated and was no longer the country, the sovereign country that it was. It was now a corporation that was, it had, different officers in identical offices for the country, but then all of the governmental offices were vacant. And Robert and I were talking about this last time, and he said that it's basically the same thing here. But when did that happen?
Like Hugh said, think mirror, guys.
Yes.
They set up a mirror, right? And so then Russell come in with this quantum grammar construct and mirrored the mirror, put it back in truth. So he destroyed the reflection in the mirror across the board.
Yeah. And
that was this thing, okay? Go ahead, sir.
In some of the conversations under XYZ components for residual imagery of walking through the mirror through the courtroom, which is documented through the U.S. judicial system. I've already sat down with the judges on this residual imagery of the mirror and XYZ components. They are very knowledgeable about what I've created in vectors in 3-space, vectors in 4-space, and this is not where I'm running around saying, hey, I'm chief judge. This is performance. This is actually going in there, being beat to hell and still standing your ground, making the foundational claims and proving the point. And those guys know it. It's all videotaped. You can go to Dane County, Wisconsin, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Casper, Wyoming. You can go to all kinds of federal courts, U.S. Supreme Court, Charleston, South Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, Greensville, North Carolina. You can go wherever in California. Don't matter. No matter.
So you've been physically going to these courts.
Yeah, I don't have to anymore because it's all closed. It's all fake.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have to go anymore. So
now, oh shoot, I lost my thought. I had a question that it'll come back to me. But Robert, with the information, I remember now. You had said earlier that David gave this information knowingly to bad people. Why did he do that? Why? I mean, if the whole point is to set, humanity free, it seems counterintuitive.
Let me give you my perspective on that, and then I'll let Russ chime in.
Okay.
I'm going to step out just for a second, but go ahead with them.
My perspective on it is that, Dave says in his seminar video, I'm not sure which one. There's probably a couple where he says it actually. He says, my job is to educate the 1% of the 1% on this contract system, right? How this whole thing works. So he really wasn't trying to give it to the people. He was hoping that he could hand it off to some leadership cast that he was hoping, I'm sure, would do the right thing with it, or potentially maybe those were his thoughts. I can't think for the guy, but I'm guessing he was hoping that he could hand it to a leadership cast of folks that were going to do the right thing with it. And we all know that is a very, very nefarious and wicked, evil group of people up there running the banks. Money's the root of all evil. That should tell you something right there. So the fact that Dave was, potentially trying to hand this off to those folks, in my eyes, I don't know. Like I said, I'm assuming he was trying to do the right thing, but there's always that extreme possibility that it was his intention to hand it off to bad guys.
Okay. Now, Russell, I wanted to talk about back to the banking, but your work with precious metals, creating wealth, because I know that you have printed coins and also postage stamps, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in fact, we got postage stamp sales. If people are interested in the postage stamps, they could go to for the treaty at quantum-bank.world. And they can learn about that. But postage stamps under fee for freight. Yeah, we started using postage stamps in 2004, and we used them to navigate. We had many students around, or I had many students around, and we were leveraged against silica at the time out of Wyoming.
Okay.
And we used those in many foreign ports to help navigate students from point A to point B so they wouldn't be detained or held in custody. And what's really unique about or solitary about our stamps is our stamps are actually backed by hard equity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's value for value. So it's a very different concept. There's no fakeness in it. And so if I say that the value behind a stamp is worth X amount, it's worth X amount. Right? There's transparency there. At one point, I had an actual bank up and running in the public sector in Du Bois, Wyoming.
Really?
2000. Yeah. Oh yeah. Because I know how to move. If I want to go open up a bank in your town, I can. They're not, and they would have to comply because there's mechanics that I know on turning on the electricity, turning on the water, renting the building, or buying the building. That can be when I open up a bank. People come. So I just want you to know that. I open up a physical location, the people flock.
It doesn't surprise me because I think that by and large, most people are sick and tired of doing business with these illegitimate banks.
Yeah,
because
and in my banking system, there's no taxes, right? It's a consumption tax,
Okay.
right? But I'm not a tax haven because there is no IRS. There's nothing to be a haven from, right? So we're not hiding wealth because there is no tax collector. And there's things that I've put in place that the mechanics on the top of the world are very, I don't even want to say, I'm not going to give technology out here today.
Sure.
But there's certain functions that I've positioned myself in to set up this consumption tax, right, of 10%, and then the mechanics of how that runs mechanical governments to downside government on a worldwide level. And so
downsize governments on a worldwide level. I like that statement.
Well, it's true.
That's what we need.
Yeah. So I built all that, and the people know, the powers to be know all this because they're the ones that I sent the treaties to way back when. And once I became cognizant that David was giving the technology away to bad people, I stopped educating. You got to comprehend. I stopped educating them. I'm just sitting back and laughing, going, "Oh boy, more harvest, you know, for the bad people, not for the good people. For the good people, I feel sorry for. You know what? The RPG, one of the really crummy things is there are a lot of good people caught up in the government system that are employees,
right?
And yet they still have to carry out crummy agendas.
Absolutely.
That's got to be a real downer. That's got to be. I mean, I don't know why they're not screaming to bring me forward so I can stop that for them, because I'm the guy that can stop it. I'm the one with the flag. I'm the one with the authorization for the military. I'm the one with the authorization for the banking. I'm the authorization for the ports. I'm the one with the authorization for the tariffs.
Right. We discussed that. I discussed that with a group of folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like
he's got copyright releases, and not something where this is where we've set up corporate structure. And once people really break down what's been done, all these fake people out here on whatever you're saying, forums, blah, 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 it's nonsense. If I'm not direct with the people that are doing it, it's fake. Kayleen, what you're saying?
Yes.
Fake.
Oh, yeah. The Johnny-come-latelys are beside the point. That's just stuff that we're dealing with.
There's a real clown that's actually never been in the courtroom, never been in a courtroom for himself, never been in a fight. Came to one of my seminars in Great Falls, Montana in 2014, 13, somewhere in there. And now he's calling himself the global chief postal judge, blah, blah. His name is, what is his name? He doesn't know a single thing. His name is Mark-Krishan-Christopher. He's about one of the biggest buffoons running, right? And people flock to him. It's just like, huh? What? I got this and I got that. You've never been in one battle and you're putting people's equity in jeopardy by opening your mouth?
That's dangerous.
Dangerous guy.
Real quick.
My technology like crazy. It's just unbelievable. Now, as far as this.
Hold on, let him catch up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Dana Finkler, thank you very much for that. And now Michael Kenny says, I guess as someone who's a leader in IS over in the Middle East, al-Baghdadi was caught. That's the big news. But no, that's it, though. My question is about the banking. What happened with the physical branch that you opened? And considering the fact that people, people need a central, trustworthy place to go to. And if you are the authority, then why not open up another physical branch or multiple physical branches?
I will on two criteria. Number one, that I sit down with the fiction federal government to set the boundaries for neutrality for those that come in, so they're not harvested, so that actually the government employees can come in simultaneously, so they're not, because you can be in two jurisdictions if you know how to stay the neutrality. So I want to teach them that.
Okay.
And number two, have you ever heard of black ops?
Yes.
Those people show up for raids, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I have the necessary security teams and mechanisms, both in cyberspace and the eyes in the sky above, to make sure that the bad people don't steal from the people. So we want to create a safe haven for the people that would come in and out of the equity of using actual tangible metals. And so
there we go.
Everything backstopped by a commodity. Everything is backed up. And so, what's different from me, from all bankers, is I can actually manifest them. So you can't, the continuance of the evidence to maintain control of your facts will be forever with the people that come in contact with you.
Commander Gould, have you talked to him about about the brick system being set up after?
Yeah.
You guys already talked about that? Did I miss that?
We touched on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Steve's out of China. Yeah.
That's another reason that we need to get Commander Gould up there and talk with Trump immediately. Like I said, get a metal pinned on him, lock this system down, and talk about that banking system first and foremost, because the Federal Reserve is going to jump out of here. And when they do, they will potentially crash the stock and bond market simultaneously and absolutely cast this country into ruin. And they'll probably point the fake news, will point the finger right at poor Donald Trump and say, that's your reason right there. So what Commander Gould has set up, man, I'm just trying to get the people of the United States.
So I rewrote the authorizations for stock markets on trading bonds and shares and units, and the warrants and the drawdowns and the calls and the auditing. I rewrote and alerted every stock market on planet Earth in 2005. So I have a whole casino system, if you so choose to set up into a leverage position where you want to buy and share trades. I've already built that infrastructure. Then I built the infrastructure to take that foreign commerce and move it from port to port, and the tariffs and tax and administrative that goes upon the actual movement of the tangible metals that backstop that paper. So it's a whole macro mechanism that I've set up.
Okay.
Your audience may not be tracking that information, but trust me, the guys that are bankers and the guys that are running the government, they know exactly what he just said.
You guys,
very, very well.
I just wanted to ask, would you be okay if I was to open it up to the audience for the call-in? If we had members of the audience call in, and then they could ask you questions as well?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Talk about the mono?
I'm gonna. Okay, you guys. Actually, I have a friend who's in Connecticut who needs a private investigator, either cyber or real world. So if anybody can recommend something, you can email me, redpill78@protonmail.com. You guys, this is the Zoom meeting link and then the phone call-in number. Actually, we're going to do just the Zoom meeting link. You guys can join directly on your computer. Hang on, for some reason it won't let me do that. Let's.
Did you guys get into the monos at all?
No, we haven't, not yet. But that was what I was going to say. I'd like for you to talk about the monoatomic elements, and because we talked about Ormus last night.
Yes, sir.
But let's talk about monoatomic gold.
Oh boy, okay.
Got it.
Stabilizing. First of all, what kind of machine are they using to test that? Right. I want them to show me the machine that they're using to test that. Number
Aren't they
two,
using Dave Hudson's? They're using Dave Hudson's, right? I mean, they've been using Dave's. He's the only one that built one, as far as I'm aware of.
oh, come on now. And his patents aren't valid, and he misleads people in a lot of directions.
Well, I'm saying he built the first machine. That was my point. Whatever capacity he built.
Not to test, I highly doubt. So, anyway.
No, just to figure out what he was looking at. Remember, he had to build this big machine to figure out what he was pulling out of the soil.
Right.
They were just trying to get to the bottom of what it was. Right. So.
All right. Well, stabilizing. Yeah.
So
the only thing that I'm going to say, I'm going to keep this real short and simple, is when you do that, the ones that are around you can influence things. So make sure that the people that you are around are like-minded and positive, hopefully like your audience.
Absolutely. We've got our first caller. That's going to be Sam Davey, and then after that is coming up is Lena. Sam, you are on the air with Russell, Robert, and myself. I've just unmuted your audio, or it should be. Sam, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you can ask your question to Commander Gould. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Pretty good. How's it going? Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. How about you? You guys can hear Sam, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sam, go ahead and what's your question? Thank you for joining us on Red Pill 78.
I was just wondering if Russell could give some sight on some knowledge on ley lines. I was kind of wondering about those and what their significance is.
Ley lines.
Okay, so people have built their architectural designs around setting up their cities, their shipping. And one of the biggest things that we can see about this is the England when they won the biggest.
Sorry about that. I had to mute a couple of the callers.
When the English won the Dutch and the wars in the shipping in the early part of our existence here, they set up Greenwich, and unfortunately, because there's a lot of science out there that may say this is a flat Earth. There's a lot of science out there that says it's a globe, but we all see there's a lot of science out there that says it's.
So sorry. Go ahead and continue.
Sam, we all see that there's a shift and see, we can't tell if they're using weather manipulation against us that's causing things to change in our ley lines, changing the magnetism and the flux. But you as a person, Sam, can create your own electron movement if you know how.
I see.
I'm just going to leave it like that for right now.
It's an energy grid. It's an energy grid for sure. And as soon as you learn how to utilize that energy grid, there's things you can do there.
Yeah, and you can be your own ley line.
All right, Sam, thank you for the question, and I hope you have a great night. Okay, bud?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks,
welcome. Russell. Thanks, Robert.
You bet, Sam. Good question. Good question. Thank you.
Hey, I always like to say, flat Earth met hollow Earth, and they had a baby, and it was a round Earth.
There you go. So, all right.
Lena,
you are live at with Red Pill 78. Robert and Russell, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Lena, are you there? I think maybe Lena doesn't know how to unmute herself. Okay, so we're going to go with Sandy Rand while Lena... Oh, Lena, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
We're having a dog party today.
Okay.
I am familiar with David Windmiller's work, and I totally appreciate that somebody carried it on or took it in another direction. I think you're brilliant, guys. Thank you. Watch all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. You have a lovely night, okay? Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We'll see ya. All right, coming up next, we've got Charles Pixley. Charles, go ahead and unmute, sir.
Go ahead and unmute, sir.
Oh,
I think I did. Back to the point of...
Charles, turn off the volume.
Charles, turn off.
There we go. I got what it was. Go ahead, Charles.
I don't know if I've live or not anymore.
There we go.
Back to the point of David teaching some very bad people. He said in a couple of his tapes that he trained Bill and Hillary Clinton, and that's how they can get away with murder.
Whoa! No way.
Yeah, I'll let Commander Gould.
I believe that was on number 1 and number 17 of the list of tapes that I started. But I was totally enthralled by the learning of the grammar. I don't know if we're going to throw away the entire bathtub, but if I have to, I will, because when I saw Mr. Horton and then him introduce Mr. Gould, I knew where I was supposed to be, because I was told by my mentor back in 1972 that we have to preserve the language. That is the way we're going to save the world, if you can even say such a thing. But the language, puts that, by saving this language, which is what you've done, we have omnipotent power been placed in our hands, whether we know how to use it or not yet.
Correct.
Question, but I believe you do. And I'm in the process and have had my own battle, and Red Pill can tell you about that battle. But anyway, I'm honored and truly would like to partner at the stage where I can actually speak intelligently in your language. But there you have it.
It was a pleasure for you to come on. Thank you, Charles. And if you can shoot me an email, we can further our correspondence off air, and you can ask your questions. And I think that would be a better format and a better platform.
Sure. Yeah, I know. We're all so excited to have you. I couldn't help myself. I had to jump in.
Thank you for calling, Charles. And I thank you for joining us tonight. And I will talk to you probably tomorrow. Okay, bud?
Good, bro.
All right. Have a great night.
I'll just chime in there real quick on the Bill and Hillary thing. And if
yes,
you remember
please.
When Bill was being prosecuted for the Monica Lewinsky incident, he came out in front of Congress and he told them, you know, he could drop, you know, as he was being questioned, he was asked whatever it was, and he said, well, it depends on what the definition of is. He was using quantum right there. David was his counsel during the Lewinsky episode. So David standing right next to him.
All right, man, that makes a lot of sense. After everything we've learned tonight, looking back on that answer, that makes a lot of sense. All right, well, coming up next, we've got Kristen's ticket. Kristen, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself, and we can get your question. Kristen, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself. Hold on, Kristen. Make sure that you push pause or at least turn the volume down. Everyone, I'm going to say this again. Make sure that you make sure that or at least turn the volume down. Everyone, I'm going to say this again. We're getting a feedback, Kristen. So you need to
go ahead and mute me.
No. Go ahead and just mute your computer. The mute YouTube. Everyone, when you call in, make sure that when it's your turn that you mute YouTube so that the feedback doesn't come through and we don't hear it. Make sure that when it's your turn that you mute YouTube so that
just go ahead and skip.
And we don't. Okay, so Kristen, well, you can stay here if you get that figured out, and we're happy to answer your question. Next, I don't know who this caller is. The next three callers don't have names set up. So I'm just going to unmute you right there. And are you there?
Yes, thank you very much for the unmute. This is Robert Francis Sullivan. I just wanted to thank Russell for his great work and to let him know I'd love to get some actionable intelligence into his hands if we could set up another call. That's all. I have your email, Russell. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Outstanding. Good news. Thank you very much. Yes,
all right.
Thank you.
And we're going to go ahead, and there we go. Coming up next is this caller. This caller was next right here. Hello, how are you?
Yes, hello. Russell J., I just want to thank you for all that you sacrificed for us. I'm saluting your Title IV flag now. I can't believe that some of the dumb stuff these people have been saying. The things that you've done and the things you've gone through to get us to the point we are is miraculous, and I can't even believe the effort that you put into it. And I've been trying to get a hold of you or to get somebody to mentor me in the rest of the way so I can do the rest of the things that I need to do. But I need closure on quite a few things. And I just joined the Red Thumb Club, been to one meeting, and they said they were going to appoint me tutor, but hasn't happened yet. And I'm ready to get on board and get at these guys. So whatever I can do, I'm there, and I'd really like a way to talk to you so I could been to one meeting and
send me an email. Send me an email, sir.
Okay, I will do that, sir.
Yeah,
I'll find out what venue you're in, and that way I can get you someone that would be educated enough to handle your situation.
I'm at the Red Thumb Club.
You know, but where are you located?
New Hampshire.
Got
it. Okay. I'll shoot me an email.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you for your call.
The Red Thumb Club is currently working on setting up a didactic program, schoolhouse, so to speak, for quantum grammar. So they're the only one that has authorization from Russell to teach that quantum grammar construct. I learned, basically teach you how to syntax, and then from there you'll learn to begin to understand and read and write in quantum grammar.
All right. Well, that's first place you'd want to go, I guess, guys. Coming up next is the caller that's not Paul Douglas. Are you there, caller? Caller, are you there? With the number ending 4191.
Red, hi, this is Tony. Yes.
Hey, Tony. What's up, Tony?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I'm calling in because, Russell, I'm the guinea pig here. Okay?
Hey, Tony. What's up, Tony?
So I'm watching the thread and like I'm totally lost. I want to let you know, everybody listening, it's okay. Even if you went to college, let's say even a high university, you only remember 10% of what you learned. So Russell, you were like a bit over our heads with this quantum grammar. Like, who even remembers a preposition or an adverb? So we were like lost at the very beginning. So this is what I plan to do, Russell. And I've noticed a lot of people were saying, I'm lost. What's going on? What's he talking about? Some people, Russell, were saying, my gosh, he's a genius. And I'm like, great. I want to be genius too. Just, I can learn anything. But some of us were so lost. So I think if you can give us like a comparison, like what would be said today in our own grammar versus the quantum grammar, give us some kind of a basis, an example. And I'm sure tons of us are going to go back when we have a foundation and listen to this again. We know you have something. And Red Pill would not have you on here if he didn't want us to learn something. So
Exactly.
we just want to learn, but we just got so lost and we're like, I don't know what's going on. I kept on putting in, the chat was just like, hold on, we have something to learn. Hold on.
Taking notes.
I know. So I just want to say this because Red, there's no way you're going to have Russell and Robert on here if we don't have something to learn.
Oh.
I want to know, what is this quantum grammar thing? And I don't know what a preposition or an adverb is anymore. Believe it or not, I actually won English awards in school. But hey, that was like 40 years ago. So educate me, Russell. Give me some kind of foundation and how to build.
Okay.
Russell, I'm a third grader. Break it down for me.
Third grader. She's a third grader.
Hey, thank you very much for your question. Great question. Hey, so when you're looking at the prepositional phrase language or the syntax, you have your prepositional phrase, and your first prepositional 3-word phrase is going to be your cause for the claimant. Your second prepositional phrase is going to be your consequence. What's the consequence of the cause? For the claimant of the knowledge. Then you're going to have your verb of thinking, which will never change the condition of the facts because the claimant is of the knowledge, is with the possession. The second prepositional phrase after the verb is a possession. So the possession would be is with the claim, possessive of the consequence, which is the effect, or the effect, the consequence. We call it consequence. We don't use the word effect, stemming from the cause of the claimant. And then after the second prepositional phrase after the verb is your authority, is with the claim of the performance, which is the authority, and then back into another prepositional phrase, which would be back to a possession. Possession, authority, possession, authority, possession, authority, and you always end with the continuance of the evidence, the liability of who you want at the end of the sentence. So if somebody created a performance, is with the claim of the performance, with the damage, at the location, safe way, with the date, possessive, whatever the date is.
I like to keep it simple, Commander. I like to tell them something like, for the knowledge of landscaping is with the 10 years of the landscaping by the landscaper.
There you go. Well, that's simple too. But cause, Cause,
Very
consequence,
simple
verb.
stuff.
You know what we need, guys? You need a workbook because
I have one.
there you go. There you go.
Where?
Where can Tony get it?
I have a pub. I gave it to all the governments. I gave it to all the governments. I look, if you want me to print out a bunch of those?
No, I just want you to have it in digital format. In fact, you are so
got it in a PDF.
smart. I'm sure you can do that. I'm sure you can put it on a website. Red, do you happen to have like an example of a sentence structure and then give it to Russell and have him put it into quantum grammar? That would be very helpful.
To be quite honest, I need a workbook on this. I mean, I understand the concept, but what I'm trying to think about how real world practice on this. Like, and this is something I wanted to ask you earlier, but we ran out of time. Thinking about success of having this applied like in court, like a case. Let's say somebody's got like a bankruptcy case, or what is something that you could apply this in? Somebody's being and I don't know because I haven't been to court all that much, so I don't know how to put it. But here's what I want you. What I do want is I want to, next time you guys come on the show, I want to have on one of my computers, real world examples of it, so that we can show people, here is the original syntax, and then here is the quantum grammar syntax. Tony, we've got to let you go because I've got 2 more callers to get to before we have to get off the air. Yeah. I do appreciate you calling in, though.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
We'll talk to you soon, Tony.
I know you got some great stuff. Looking forward to hearing more. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, Paul Douglas, it looks like he is familiar with quantum grammar. He's got his name formatted correctly. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent. And what's your question, Paul?
Okay, so kind of a little bit of a part question. I'm a small business owner. I'm a holistic practitioner. I used to be a banker type, but instead of interjecting stress, I want to take it out of the system now. And so I'm kind of having small business problems. Didn't have enough money, had my house foreclosed on, they wanted taxes. I need some contracts, obviously. I need to be able to connect with people and communicate in a new format if I, move into the Russell system and all that. So can you tell me what kinds of solutions do you have for the small business people around?
Absolutely. First of all, you would change your format of how your clients come in. You would have a form, a quantum form, where you have to change the linguistics to move yourself out of venue of the standard medical locations. So
standard terminology, you got to change the grammar.
Period. You got to change the grammar. And so instead of having a patient, you have a claimant. Instead of them being injured, there's a foul, F-O-U-L. And so you have to look at other synonyms to what you have already in place to change the venue, so you can now have the freedom to actually heal or to cure. Okay, and so you can bring them in under a membership if you so choose. Now you move them out of their venue. And then, of course, the pay scale is always the one to worry about, how you're accepting your fee for freight for usury of your service. So you have to evaluate that simultaneously. So does the claimant with the foul, are they with the possession of a fee-freight with the happiness in your life? And so you have to determine that with your client.
Okay. And I've been studying grammar for a time, about a year or so, give or take, and I'm a little ways into it.
Sure.
But workbooks would be a great idea. I heard that from the previous question. Can the Red Thumb Club get some of that action?
Yeah, you guys have got a lot from me. Right? You want? All right.
Love you.
I hear the world. And I'll perform. How does that sound?
I'm looking forward to it, definitely. Paul, thank you very much for your call and your question. I hope you have a wonderful night.
Thanks.
Yep, we'll see you.
Paul. Hang in there, buddy. Keep studying.
Right. And keep studying. Now, last caller of the evening, Murray, you are live on the air with Red Pill 78 and Robert and Russell. What can we do for you, bud?
Hey guys, just saying hello.
Excellent.
How you doing, Murray?
It's about your Live Life document.
Live life. Claim
of the life. Yes.
Yes. So I guess my question is, I'm a Canadian and I'm interested in what you're doing and what you're talking about. And I was just curious if that's something that Canadians can participate in, if that pertains to people around the world. And I guess another question would be, I know I've seen the website that you have that you can actually go to and apply this. I guess, I don't know if maybe I stumbled over a couple of the things that I saw. And of course, you know, as most conspiracy theorists, so to speak, would suggest, how real is this? You know, I keep seeing your stuff come up. I've watched all the videos. I understand pretty much everything other than, you know, I don't have a firm grasp on the grammar, but the, I guess I would be asking a secondary question would be, is this something that's going to be or could be instituted worldwide? And certainly the quantum banking, if Trump is going to move the U.S. economy to a gold standard, is the quantum banking something that could be utilized as well?
This is the only thing he has left to go to, guys. Russell J. Gould has set up a quantum federal global government system. It's the only clean federal global government system on the planet. The Queen of England knows it. She's told us as much, okay? We had one person go to her and say, hey, there's a bunch of gold down in the Philippines. You need to go get your militaries and put it in your banks. She told that individual, the only person that has a clean banking system who has authorization to move that kind of value is Russell J. Gould. Period. All the banks have been caught for fraud. Nobody can move anything. He's the only guy with a clean banking system. Those are her words, not mine. So this is a big thing, guys. This is not a conspiracy or a theory. This was done by this guy. He set up his own global federal government system, and it's got its own venue, the quantum venue. So it's in now time. That's the difference between the former system or the system we're currently using, where everything's in future or past tense in relation to the verbiage. So it has its own venue, and this is the only thing there is left to go to. Once this old system crashes, this massive safety net is set up in the background to catch the entire planet when it falls.
All right.
Good news.
Murray, I want to say thank you for your call, sir. We're going to have to let you go. I've got a couple of things I got to take care of before the show is over. We're already running long. So thank you for calling, and maybe next time we'll just do a whole hour of call-ins at the end. Have a good day, Murray.
Thank
and
you, guys.
I am so sorry. The last caller, we are out of time. We're not taking any more callers. I need to say thank you to a couple of super chats. Michael Kenny said, if the deep state evil cabal doesn't care about laws in order to get where they want, then how does the proper grammar help us? That's something that I can totally understand. We'll get to that in a second. Patriot Q77 said, I thought of BC saying that about is while watching Warcastle's vids on YouTube. Thank you for using your knowledge for the good of the people, Russell. And then USMC Laters, thank you for that super chat, fam. 2020, Gimli and Carl would be proud. Notice us, RP78, where we go one, we go all. That's right, where we go one, we go all. Everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight. Real quick, before we go, I think that Michael Kenny makes a good point, you know? I mean, like, this is what I was getting at earlier with the enforcement. You know, how do we use this on a daily basis to help fight against the deep state when they don't care that they're killing us and that's what they want?
This is why I brought this forward. This is why I got behind this. This is why I jumped on this, and I've been pushing to get it into the public sector, guys. You guys have to be made aware of this thing, because if you're not, the bad guys are going to steal it from you. That's what you need to realize, okay? How does it work? How can I get behind it? You better get behind it. You better start figuring out how to get behind it, studying the grammar, watching Dave's videos, listening to Russ speak, because the bad guys are going to try and steal this from you and use it to drive the screws back down on you like you have never had them driven back down on you, to include myself. Okay, so this is very important. This is why I brought it forward.
All right, one last question. Stephanie had asked, she wants to know if you know Chris Hallett, the CEO of E-Clause and Kirk Pendergrass from Kirk's Law Corner. Nope, don't know him. Don't know him.
David Straight. I'm actually talking with Dave Straight. Sorry to name drop Dave. I probably shouldn't have done that. But I am working with that gentleman. Yeah, E-Clause. We're aware of the executive orders written by Trump. We know what's going on with the bar being basically disbanded and shut down. And E-Clause now has the representatives, attorneys. Basically, they're not attorneys; they're just legal representatives for you to utilize. And you do not need a bar attorney anymore.
Oh.
The Bar Association was considered a monopoly. Dave Straight went in front of Congress and told Congress we're shutting it down because monopolies are illegal here in the United States. He had an executive order with him when he did it, and so now you guys don't have to use a bar attorney.
All right, and then two last super chats. Ben Schwangel says you should get with Dustin Nemos and help the Stop Bit Burning lawsuit and his lawyer. That's Dustin has a lawsuit which is looking to stop the suppression of voices such as ours. So I'll be happy to help you guys with that. And then Curious Querier says, thanks, RP, Russ, and Robert. We appreciate you. Red Pill, you get it. All right, guys, I want to say thank you, both of you, Russell and Robert, for being here. I'm so glad that I decided to make sure we would have a full 2 hours this time because Robert and I were just starting to get into the meat of it. And I'll be honest, I feel like we only just started to get into the meat of it this time either. This is a huge subject. So thank you both for being here with us tonight. Russell, I'm going to give you the last word.
I thank you to your audience, to you, for actually giving us a forum to speak on. I really appreciate they asked good questions. I hope that they, my prayers are with them. I know that the trials and tribulations on the day-to-day walk doesn't have to be. And I thank you for the chance to humbly come on your show and share my journey with you guys.
Excellent. And Robert, I'll give you a word too, buddy.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, if anything, like I said, I'm trying to get Russell up there in Washington, D.C. to sit down with Trump. We want to get a medal pinned on him right away for his efforts back in 1999. He definitely well deserves it. And that's the endeavor here, guys. So we are going to get this locked down for our country, and it will be coming forward.
All right.
We do have an executive order that just came out, and I showed you guys that on the last.
I remember that. And then just as my last word, I'm going to drop that fortheredthumbclub.ca in the chat one more time. If you guys missed any of the links that I put for these gentlemen in the chat, you can find them in the description of the video. And as always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this was your Red Pill news for Saturday night live stream. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. And I hope everyone have a wonderful night, guys.